Well, hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Let's talk about the easy way to choose what to do next, what to do now, especially in times of uncertainty and chaos. I was going to call this one simple ways to analyze alternatives, but guess what? That's the nerdy engineer in me that talks about things, how to analyze alternatives, how to use all these complicated ways to solve problems and to make choices. Guess what? Most people don't think that way. I don't even really think that way, except when I've got my nerd engineer business hat on. When I'm just being me, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom, I look for the simple ways to solve problems, to come up with solutions, and then to analyze what solution is best for me right now. What is the response that I'm going to have right now to any given situation? So, Get Up and Go Challenge, preliminary, getting ready for our next challenge, August 1st to August 31st, right here on the Get Up and Go Challenge page. And invite you to join the Get Up and Go Challenge private group, because that's where we have the discussions. That's where you can share what you really think, what you really feel, what you have questions about in a really safe environment. I know for me, I participate in a lot of challenges as well as doing a lot of challenges. I've actually been doing challenges for decades. Both online and offline. Offline, of course, first, before online was even available, because I'm that old. I'm old enough to remember before the internet. I was talking to my kids the other day about life before the internet, and mentioned it to my granddaughter yesterday, and she was so shocked and surprised, because she's 5, so she understands some things now. Of course, she's getting more mature, and she's like, what do you mean there wasn't any YouTube when you were little? What do you mean there weren't any cell phones? And then my sister was explaining to her that we used to have phones on the wall, and that everybody in the family used the same phone. And if you would call your friend and the dad answered, sometimes you would hang up because you didn't want to talk to the dad. You just wanted to talk to your friend. And so I remember those days when I was a kid, and we only had the one phone in the house, and everybody had to share the phone. And there were, of course, with 4 girls in the house, there were arguments about whose turn it was to use the phone. Crazy, right? But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. Yesterday we talked about how to pick something, and how to know what the right thing is for you, whether it's a coaching program, a course, an area of study, a car, a house, a material thing, or anything in your life. And that led, of course, to well, how do you choose among alternatives when you know that you always have infinite possibility and infinite choices? There's so many choices. We tend to limit ourselves and automatically filter out things that don't fit our criteria or things that we want to see. And that's just human nature. It keeps us sane, because we don't get overloaded and overwhelmed with all of the possible solutions there really are to a problem and how to choose. Well, how do we choose? How do we choose and keep it simple? When I am making a choice or a decision, 95% of the choices and decisions that I make are automatic, and they're based on where am I going and what do I want. They're not what's happened in the past, and I'm afraid because if I choose this, I may die because I might make a mistake. I now, and it's been a long time coming, make my choices based on, are they moving me toward my goal or objective, or the thing that I want, or are they moving me away from that? There's so many ways to look at this. If I say I want to buy a new car, or I want to buy a new material thing, because that's something we all can relate to. I remember when I was younger, I saved up for like 2 years to get my own stereo. I wanted my own components and my own stereo system. And so I knew when I went to college, I wanted to have my own sound system. So I spent years saving my money so that I could have a nice stereo sound system. I can't remember what they were called back then, but all the different components to it, the speakers, the what's it called, the sound separator, all the different things. Actually we had phonographs back then. We had the record players. I'm aging myself again. So whenever we want something, there's so many choices and so many alternatives. How do we pick? How do we pick what kind of stereo we want? How do we pick what kind of car we want? How do we pick what kind of significant other relationship we want? How do we pick what course or what coach or what anything we want, what challenge to do? How do we pick a challenge that we want to do online? Nowadays, there's so many things available. How do we pick among those alternatives? And it's not as overwhelming as it sounds. We're not picking for the rest of our life. We're picking what do we do next? And if we are asking ourselves the question, what is the best choice for me for the next step, it's a lot less overwhelming and a lot easier to decide and make a choice than if we're thinking for the rest of our life. Have you ever gone out with a group of people and you're going to go out for dinner and nobody will decide where you want to go to eat or what you want to go to eat, what restaurant. Now, we're not doing a whole lot of that during COVID, but generally we've all had that experience where you're with a group of friends and nobody can decide where you want to go to eat. Nobody wants to make the choice. Somebody wants to make the decision. Well, what a silly thing to waste our emotional energy and our decision-making processes on. Because guess what? You're going to eat how many meals for the rest of your life? 3 meals for every day for the rest of your life, or maybe more. So does it really matter what restaurant you go to eat at? Not really. But how much time and energy do we as human beings spend discussing a topic like that? How much time and energy do we spend discussing something that we have absolutely no control over, like the weather? I know I'm guilty as the next person about commenting on the weather. Hey, it's a default thing. If you don't know what to talk about, you can talk to almost anyone on the planet about the weather. It's a safe topic. So how do we analyze alternatives? How do we find an easy way to choose what's right for us and what's right for us next? Not what's right for us forever. What's the right thing for us to do next? I have a couple criteria and a couple things I automatically filter my decisions and my choice through to make those decisions. Number one, how important or how urgent is it? How important is it that I make a decision and make a choice and take action right now? If it's important and urgent, I'm going to make a choice and I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it fast. If it's one or the other, but not both, that will determine whether I am going to, how much time I'm going to give myself to make a choice. I say whenever you make a decision, whenever you commit to something, as soon as you possibly can, you want to take an action toward that. And it doesn't have to be a big thing, but a teeny tiny step toward your decision so that you reinforce that decision and that idea in your life. So if I decide I'm going to buy a new car, I'm going to immediately do something to move me toward that decision. So maybe I'll start Googling different types of cars, or I'll start noticing and looking at cars, or maybe I'll talk to a friend about what they like best about their new car. Now, cars are something that I personally don't care very much about at all, especially now since I'm not driving. I couldn't care less about cars. I didn't really care about them before. I just wanted a car that got me from point A to point B safely, and I didn't have to worry about it. And all I wanted to do was put gas in it and then take it in to get serviced periodically. That is how little I care about cars. But if I did care about cars, and even if I don't care about cars, I do care about transportation, getting from point A to point B. I will, as soon as I decide I need to go from point A to point B, make a decision and act immediately or as quickly as I can on that decision, if it's important and urgent to me. If I commit to it, it's obviously important to me. If it's urgent, say I have a health challenge and I need to go to the doctor, I'm going to call the doctor and make an appointment right away. So important and urgent. The second thing I ask myself is, what is my level of interest and desire and attraction to the different alternatives? Say I've got a problem and I've come up with 3 possible solutions. I usually pick at least 3 different alternatives so I don't lock myself into the A or B scenario where it's either this or that, because so often we give ourselves the choice between 2 alternatives and we don't like the possible outcomes of either one, and we know they're not in our best interest. So if I say I'm going to consider at least 3 alternatives, I say 3 or more. I like to have at least 5 things that I'm looking at and quickly considering versus I never have just 2. If I have just 2, I know I'm in trouble and I haven't dug deep enough to think about what else is possible. What are the possible next actions that I can take? And then I ask myself, in each of these criteria, say I have 5 things, I rate them 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You don't have to do that, but I'm a nerd and I'm scientific, so I like to have subjective numbers to things so that I'm not just making an emotional decision. But interest, desire, attraction, those are the emotional components. So I'm actually giving a subjective number to how do I feel about this particular alternative. So say I want a different colored car. A red car, a black car, a white car, a blue car, a green car. I'm just randomly selecting this. How do I feel about each of those different colors? Well, I'm going to give it a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 based on which one I like the most will get the highest number. Then the next thing I'm going to ask myself is, what are the resources required? What kind of resources do I need to do this, to make this choice, to make this alternative? You know, sometimes nowadays, believe it or not, they actually charge different prices for different car colors. So if I want to get a red car and it costs $500 more, and I have no idea anymore. Say it costs $500 more to get a red car, maybe I'll decide, nah, it's not worth, you know, $500 to get a red car. I'll just get a white car. I don't know. That's just an example. So what are the resources required? Not just money. Keep in mind the time and energy that you're going to have to expend on that next, on each of the choices, and ask yourself all the types of resources, not just, and again, you can give it a number. I like to give things numbers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's the most resource laden thing? What is going to take the most time, the most money, the most energy? To me nowadays, energy is the deciding factor in the alternative that I choose, the thing I choose to do next, more so than money and time. Guess what? Time is the great equalizer. We all only have 24 hours in a day, and time is the one resource that we can never get more of. We have 24 hours today, 24 hours tomorrow, 24 hours the next day, as long as we live, which we don't know when that's gonna end, right? So to me, time and energy get a much more weighted factor than money does nowadays when I'm deciding among alternatives. The other thing I like to look at, which is one that so many of us overlook, and I too in the past overlooked a lot of times in my life, and every single time I didn't consider this factor, I got burned in a very big way. And sometimes in my life, a couple of instances that have taught me you have to consider this factor, because I did get burned so badly, and it took me much longer to recover from that situation and that experience than had I listened to this criteria in the first place. And that is my gut, my intuition, that little feeling inside that tells you, it gives you, right now I'm getting goosebumps, it gives you goosebumps or a tingling or that feeling in the back of your neck or in the pit of your stomach that says something's off here, something's wrong. Every single time, including selecting my husband and selecting a business partner, selecting my career and choice, every time I've had an inkling or a feeling that something looks so good on paper and sounds good and seems like it's for me intellectually, but my gut says, oh, you got to reconsider this, or there's something you're missing or you have to look out for. Every time I've ignored that in the past, it has come back to bite me in the derriere. Every single time, and in a bad way. So now, believe it or not, this fourth thing is something I always take a gut check or an intuition check or a feelings check. And again, it's more of a feeling thing, a sixth sense kind of thing. I don't even know how to describe it because it's different for each of us. But guess what? Each and every one of us have that and have that ability. And it's way down in our subconscious. It's in our soul and our being that keeps us safe. But it's not just about keeping safe. It's about more than that. It's about something that protects us and reminds us that we always know what the right thing is for us to do. So, again, what are the 4 easy ways, the 4 easy criteria that I use to decide what I'm going to do next? 1, what is my level of interest? How attracted am I? How do I feel about this? What is my desire for this alternative? If I really, really, really want a red car, it doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter how much the resources difference are. It doesn't matter what my gut is, because my gut and my level of interest and attraction are going to outweigh everything, and I'm going to find ways to justify why I needed to have that red car, right? Or whatever choice or whatever alternative or whatever decision that we make. What, again, so second, my gut, my intuition. What does my gut say about these alternatives? Which is the right one to do right now? Which is the first one to try to move me toward? And the overriding factor is always, do I think this is going to move me closer to what I want or further away from what I want? I'm never going to take an alternative that would move me further away from what I want. If I know with pretty good certainty that I'm going to move in the wrong direction, or I'm going to try something and it's so risky that I'm almost guaranteed it's going to go the opposite way of what I'm moving toward, that's an automatic no. That's an automatic throw that alternative out, because that our intuition and our gut is telling us, hey, this isn't going to move you and take you where you want to go. It makes it a lot easier to filter the requests and the things and the alternatives and the choices because we just filter out the things that aren't going to move us toward what we want. And then the resources required, I'm going to consider the resources required, and I'm going to ask myself, is this important and urgent to me that I want to commit to it? Of each of the alternatives, again, if I'm looking at 3 to 5 choices, you know, and we do this really quickly. It sounds like I'm talking about it way longer than it takes to actually do this in our mind. Resources required, important or urgent, level of interest, desire, attraction, or intuition. That's it. Those are the easy way to filter and decide, what do I need to do next? What is my choice? What's the best choice for me right now? And we should make all our decisions, what is the best choice for me right now? That's the be all and end all of it. So that's it. That's our Get Up and Go preliminary message for today. Please join me August 1st to August 31st right here, Get Up and Go Challenge, 11 a.m. Central Time, for our next Get Up and Go Challenge. Again, I'm working on the topics and what it's going to be about, but I guarantee it will leave you better off at the end of the challenge than at the beginning of the challenge. All right, have an amazing day, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow with another preliminary lesson for our next Get Up and Go Challenge. Bye.